Straight all day.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is why all news is good news. Now, before we get into this, first of all, let me tell everybody I have a daily motivation text that I send out every single day for free to everyone who is in my text community. If you would like to receive that text, all you got to do is text me at my number, which is 305-384-6894. And every day when I send out this message, you will be receiving it straight to your phone. You can even respond to any of those messages and start a dialogue directly with me. That number is down below in the show notes as well. Now, this topic, why all news is good news. I heard a guy named Dan Kennedy say this in a training that I was attending. And what he was talking about generally was mindset specifically for entrepreneurs, but this can apply to anyone. So credit to him. Well, what I'm going to do is expand on this idea and give it to you in the work on your game sense, why all news is good news. I don't need to give any more background on this, so let's get straight to it. Point number one, topic again, is why all news is good news. What this is really about, this subject is really about the mental alchemy that allows you to take every situation in your life and frame it in such a way such that you can use it for positive effect. That's the point of all of this, is to take everything that occurs, everything that happens, and turn it into, or not even turn it into, but look for what is the positive way that I can look at this situation. In other words, you're trying to find a silver lining to every cloud. You're trying to find where is the opportunity in every situation, every circumstance, every outcome. Where is it at? Because it exists in everything. This is a simple law of the universe. All right, now I'll get to that, and I'll get to that a little bit more at a later point of this episode. This is not the same, let me be clear, this is not the same as you ignoring a challenge. If there's a challenge or some situation that needs to be dealt with in your life, this does not mean to ignore it. It does not mean acting as if a situation that needs to be dealt with does not need to be dealt with. This is about you looking at every situation and figuring out where the opportunity, the benefit, or the learning outcome exists within that situation, because it's always there. And it's also about keeping yourself on a level of high vibration and positive energy. And I'll be doing an episode on vibration and energy in the next few days. But vibration, simply, if I was to just give you a simple primer on it, when you're feeling positive and feeling good about yourself and excited in a positive way, that's a high vibration. When you're feeling fearful and anxious and nervous in a negative way, that's a low vibration. So keeping yourself on a level of high vibration is a choice, but it's something that usually needs to be done strategically. You aren't always able to just do it with the snap of a finger, but there are tools that you can utilize to get yourself on that level. I'm going to be talking about that again in a future episode of this show. So that's point number one. Let's move on to point number two. Today's topic, once again, is why all news is good news. On a factual and logical level, let's be clear about something. We all understand that every cloud has a silver lining, that it exists. Whether you can see it or not, it exists. Every coin has two sides. Every yin has a yang. So what I'm discussing here is not some kind of mental trick that you are playing on yourself. This is you objectively looking for the inverse in every situation in which you are involved. At least in the situations that may not be exactly what you want, is finding where is the opportunity, where's the good part of the situation. Because at the same time, full disclaimer, every situation that you do want, there's an inverse to that as well. So if you want to make a lot of money and you actually made a lot of money, there's an inverse to that situation. There's a flip side to it that maybe you are aware of, maybe you're not, but that flip side does exist. Again, whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you know about it or not, it's there. And any situation in your life where that is not what you want, whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you look for it or not, whether you find it and can do anything with it or not, it still exists. Your inability or unwillingness to identify the flip side of a situation does not mean that the flip side isn't there. It doesn't mean the flip side doesn't exist. Your job, and that's why the topic here today is the topic, is to find out where's the good news in this situation. This is you objectively looking for that inverse in every situation that you're involved in. And you can even do this with situations that you want, because you at least want to be aware, all right, what's the challenge here? What's something that I might want to look out for? What's the potential danger in this situation? Again, not to make yourself feel bad, even though you just got some great news. It's just to keep yourself on point, just to keep yourself focused and make sure that you don't kind of sing yourself to sleep only thinking about the good stuff, but you're not even noticing the threat that might be on the other side of that situation. Every situation has at least two sides to it. And depending on what kind of situation it is, it might be three sides. You got one person's side, the other person's side, you got the actual truth. But there's never just one side to a situation, okay? The positives, for example, if you live in a house and it's a house that you own, one of the positives is that, hey, you don't have neighbors that are too close to you, maybe that you had to deal with, and you can make adjustments and edits to the building as you wish. You don't have to deal with other people who you don't want to deal with if you don't want to. And you go anywhere in the house and not have to deal with another person if you don't want to deal with another person, at least outside of people who are in your house. Some challenges are that if something goes wrong in the house, you got to fix it. You're 100% responsible for getting everything fixed. And to leave your house to meet other people who don't live in your house, you have to actually leave the house and go somewhere. You have to actually go outside and meet other people. And it might not be so easy to move out of that house and get a new one if you want to. At least not as easy as, if we go to the flip side, if you live in an apartment complex or a condominium, some of the positives are that you might not have to pay for many of the repairs, depending on whether you own it or lease it. If you lease it, you don't have to pay for many of the repairs. If something goes wrong, you don't even have to fix it yourself. You just make a phone call, they come fix it. Or if you do get it fixed, they'll reimburse you. You don't have to mow any lawns because you don't have a lawn. On the challenges side, you may have many neighbors who are in very close proximity and you have to deal with them. You got to deal with management. You got to deal with their decision-making processes. If you don't like the decision that they made, you got to deal with it because they made a decision that affects you in some way. Something goes wrong in the building, you got to wait on management to fix the thing in the building that maybe wasn't even your fault that it got broken. You are subject to rules set forth by people other than yourself. So depending on your situation, you can choose to focus on either side of that equation. The challenge is, which side are you focusing on? And I'm just using those as examples, but in anything that you do in life, you have these different sides of the equation, of the things that you can look at that are challenges, things you can look at that are great things, or you could call positives. The question is, are you seeking these things out? Because the thing is, a lot of times in life, as we talked about the lizard brain in many of the few episodes we had, many of the last few episodes we talked about the lizard brain, is that the lizard brain usually only focuses on what the lizard brain is most interested in, was usually the thing that is most emotionally connecting for you, the most emotionally activating, we'll say, for lack of a better term. And that can be the thing that makes you really happy. It can be the thing that you've wanted. It can be the thing that you most fear. It can be the thing that makes you the most angry, the thing that causes anxiety, the thing that causes some kind of trepidation or nervousness for you. That's the thing that the lizard brain is going to pay attention to, because that's what the lizard brain has evolved to be. It's basically your emergency signal, letting you know what you need to pay attention to most. That is usually the thing that's most emotionally activating. But that doesn't mean that other pieces don't exist. Just because they're not making the most noise doesn't mean that they don't exist. So it's your job. That's why this topic is all news is good news. And when you get some news that the lizard brain is flashing the emergency signal saying you should be anxious, you should be afraid, you should be scared, you should be nervous, you should be angry, or whatever, doesn't mean there's not other sides to it. That's just what the emergency brain is telling you to pay attention to. The lizard brain, is telling you to pay attention to. Doesn't mean there aren't other things to pay attention to. You just have to have the discipline and condition yourself mentally to consciously sometimes ignore what the lizard brain is saying pay attention to, and pay attention to the part that makes most sense for you, or makes most sense for where you're trying to get to and what you want to be focused on. So the challenge in any situation in your life is, what are you focusing on? Because you could focus on anything. What are you choosing to focus on? Moving on to point number 3. The topic here today is all news is good news. Number 3, the biggest thing that keeps people from being able to utilize this idea is our own emotions and lack of activating our imagination. You could say lack of imagination, but everybody has imagination. It's just that we don't activate our imagination, at least not in a proactive way. We activate our imagination. We're really good at activating our imaginations in a negative way. In other words, we're good at activating our emotions our imaginations rather, to think about what might go wrong, or how a situation that's already gone wrong could get worse, or how something is not looking the way we want it to look is just a complete calamity and catastrophe, and we should have never did this in the first place, and how the whole thing was a mistake. We're really good at doing those things, right? We're really good at using our imagination in that way, because all of us have very active and engaged imaginations. We all have them. Again, it's just a matter of how we're using them. We often misuse our imaginations and send them in the wrong direction, especially when we are faced with a challenging situation. So Dan Kennedy, the guy who seeded the idea for this episode, I heard him telling this story in the same training that I attended. He was talking about how once, back in the days when he was early in his career, he was doing an event and he was behind on some bills, and he was just trying to get his footing in the business world, and his car was sitting outside, and the repo man tracked him down and tracked down his car. Really, they weren't really looking for him, they were looking for the car, and the repo man repossessed his car from right in front of the venue where Dan was doing a live training event. And he said that was the second time my car had been repoed. And he said, well, he went to his wife and he said to his wife, hey, I got good news. We're getting a new car. And you might laugh at that. Everybody laughed when he said it. But the whole point is, it's the mental alchemy. It's looking at the situation that most people would say, damn, this is a messed up situation, and finding where's the opportunity in that. Even if you need to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, even if you're being a little bit facetious, but does that help change the frame of the situation? Well, it absolutely does. Is that frame a lot different than saying, damn, my car got repoed, I'm a loser, I'm behind on bills, I got terrible credit, I'm broke, I'm not making any money, I'm doing an event and talking about these things, but I'm not selling enough to even pay for my car? You can say all those things. All of those things would be true too, but is it also true that he'd be getting a new car? Yes, it was, because his last one had just been repossessed. So was he getting a new car? Yes, he was. So he wasn't lying. It was just a different way of framing the situation. The challenge for many of us, as I just explained, and point number 2, is that our emotions get so much of a hold of us, and that we start focusing on the negative part of it, the challenging part of the situation, that we don't even free our minds up to even notice that part of, hey, at least I can get a new vehicle now, I'm not stuck with that one anymore. I mean, if you wanted it that much, maybe you would have been making the payments, but you get the point. And this is your ability, again, to find the opportunity in any situation. And usually, like I talked about in episode 1025, the opportunity is usually in the opposites. The opportunity is in the opposites. And what is the default for most of us? Because we all have the lizard brain as human beings, is to focus on the emergency or the challenge or the fear. That's what the lizard brain tells us to pay attention to, because that's how we evolved to think. So the opposite is to look for, what's the good part of this? What's the part of it that tells me I shouldn't be afraid? What's the part of it that I could actually be happy and excited about? That's the opposite. And the opportunity in life is always in the opposite of whatever you see everyone else doing, or even what your own brain is trying to tell you what to do. So we can all agree that, as I said, it's factually correct. He was getting a new car. The challenge for many of us, again, is that we're focused on the embarrassment, the money we owe, the fact our car got taken away, the fact that we failed in some way by not making those payments. You could just as easily look at the other side by using your imaginations in a more intentional way. Your imagination is working either way. It's just being more intentional about how you're using your imagination. You can use it to think of all the negative machinations of a situation. Instead, use it to think about the positive ones. It is simply a flip in mentality, a flip in mindset. All said, let's recap today's class, which is why all news is good news. Again, hat tip to Dan Kennedy for the idea that I've expanded on for this point. Point number 1, for this subject rather. Point number 1, what it's really about is the mental alchemy that allows you to take every situation in your life and frame it in such a way that you can use it for a positive effect. It does not mean ignoring your challenges. It means looking at every situation and figuring out where the opportunity to benefit or the learning outcome is in that situation. It's also about keeping yourself on a level of high vibration and positive energy. We got an episode on that coming soon. Number 2, on a factual and logical level, we understand every cloud has a silver lining, every coin has multiple sides, every yin has a yang. So you're not playing a trick on yourself. What you're doing is just looking for the inverse in every situation you're involved in, so you're not only paying attention to what you've been conditioned to pay attention to, but maybe start noticing the other side of that situation. Some challenges exist even in the winning situations, and there are wins that exist even in the challenging situations. Your job is to start training your mind to notice either one. Depending on your situation, you could choose to focus on anything. Challenge is, what are you choosing to focus on? Point number 3, biggest thing that keeps people from being able to utilize this idea is your own emotions, your lizard brain, and your lack of using your imagination, again, intentionally in the direction in which you want to use it. We all have imagination. We all use our imaginations all the time. The challenge is our lizard brain conducts us or directs us to utilize our imaginations towards how things could get worse, or the things we should be anxious about or nervous about or afraid about, where we could just as easily use our imaginations to focus on the things we should be happy about, excited about, and feeling positive towards, even in the midst of a challenging situation. This is what it means to get to that mental alchemy, is we can be in a situation that most people look at as this is messed up, and we can find a way to feel great about it. All right, that is a challenge for many of us, that instead of focusing on the repossession, we focus on the fact that, hey, well, at least I get to get a new vehicle, or I'm not stuck with that one anymore, or hey, maybe I don't have to make the payments anymore. You can just easily look at the other side of that situation, and it's, again, where's your imagination taking you? And you can condition your imagination the same way you condition your subconscious mind, because the imagination it comes from the subconscious by getting my mental workbook. When you go get your free copy of my newest book, The Third Day,